One of the things that aggravates me is when people try and defend bad fight choreography in a multi-billion-dollar franchise. They give all kinds of reasons. Well, that's the way the lore works, or the weapons don't work the way you think they would. But one of the dumbest reasons is when they say something along the lines of, the fight choreography is bad because the character is inexperienced. That's cope, and today we're going to talk about why. Now, before I go any further, I want to make it clear this is not necessarily the actor's fault. It might not even be the fight choreographer's fault. There's things that we just don't know about that go on behind the scenes, like the production deadline, how long the actors got to do the fight, etc., etc. So all we have is the final result, so I can only judge it by what I got to see, and what I got to see was bad. A lot of modern films seem to have this problem, underwhelming fight scenes, and I think it's because they're not giving the actors enough time to actually practice the fight. Instead, they rely on just doing a lot of cuts and shaky cam and things like that to disguise how bad the fight scene is. It doesn't have to be this way. Look at the OT trilogy. There was great choreography in that. The actors definitely had enough time to actually rehearse those. The same thing with the prequel trilogy. As much as it's not my personal aesthetic, those fights were amazing, and it's very obvious the actors worked very hard on those fights, and they had the time to do so. I don't know exactly what factors led to the fights that we got in the sequels, but no matter what we got, and they're not very good. Even so, there are people out there trying to defend these fight scenes and others like them. In the sequel trilogy specifically, people will say the reason the fight scenes look bad and sloppy is because Rey is inexperienced, and they'll also say Kylo is inexperienced or that he was injured and that's the reason the fight looks bad. And I find this to be a bad excuse. Not because that kind of inexperience or injury would lead to differences in the way they fight, but because it's not the way that it would manifest in good choreography. Let me explain. So let's look at how to make a more interesting fight with an inexperienced character versus an experienced character. So let's look at Rey as a base here. Now, if we were gonna have an inexperienced character fight an experienced character, this person has to have something going on with their character to make it so they can hold their own. If I have no redeeming attributes, if I'm not athletic, if I've never used any weapon before, it's not realistic to have me hold my own against you or even beat you. So we have to make sure that there's some realism here. And we can look at Rey and we can find that, right? She is a nomad. She runs around the desert and she's got a weapon, a staff, so she knows how to fight with some sort of weapon. She is athletic, we know that. And those are things that we can bring to the fight. Maybe she doesn't have perfect control over this new thing she just found, but maybe her pre-existing strengths can help her. If I was gonna choreograph something with these, I might do something like this. Right? This is a very specific sequence of actions. We can probably agree that this is something somebody inexperienced would be doing. So let's take this and turn it into something that is a little less crisp, something that is a little bit more wild and untrained. So I'm just gonna make these actions bigger. This is a bit of a bigger action, a bigger action, a bigger action, and a bigger action. But all of those things are fairly easy to do. It's just a strike this way, a strike this way, and a stab. None of those are secret techniques. So we've given this person choreography that makes sense, and we've just made it a little bit sloppier or just a little bit bigger. The other thing to talk about here is what this person is not doing. If they are an experienced person, they know that if they parry this, they're probably gonna immediately counterattack. And it makes sense, they would do that if this was a real fight. But we have an additional element here, and that is I am inexperienced. I don't know when it's my turn and when it's their turn. This is the number one thing that leads to doubles in fencing. I really wanna hit you, so you block, you try and hit me, and then I hit you too, and we're both dead. As an experienced person, an experienced fencer, you have to read your opponent. You know they're gonna do that, so instead of taking your turn, when you know it's your turn, you're gonna continue to guard yourself until you are certain that the person can't hit you. So this person does not take their turn here. They do not take their turn here. They do not take their turn here, and they're about to take their turn. They're set up. They've got this strike ready to go, but they see that I'm coming in here. They don't want to eat it. So instead, they block this. Now it's very clear that I'm in a bad spot. Even if I'm inexperienced, I see this coming. I must do something, and now I'm going to parry it. So we have a person now who's being very aggressive, who's not really minding their safety. And I'm not saying that's how Rey's character was, but this is a great way to set up establishing that this person is inexperienced, because it shows that they don't even perceive the danger that they're in. That wildness makes them fight differently than they normally would. And this creates an interesting fight scene with layers to it. So again, we've got, I really wanna get you, and now I see I'm in trouble. So now we're gonna shift. Now I'm gonna become much more defensive. So as I see this coming in, I defend it. But you can see a real defense of this, right? If this was coming at my face, bah, I'd come right back in. So if they attacked me, I would deflect this and I've got an opening there. But because I don't know what I'm doing, I am doing this bigger. I come in, I move, now I'm open for the next attack. I'm open for the next attack. I'm open for the next attack, right? I'm making everything bigger. My defenses are bigger. Realistically, each one of these attacks I could defend very small. Boom, and I'm back in. Boom, and I'm back in. Boom, and I'm back in. And then etc. Instead, we're gonna make them bigger, which gives him a chance to chase. But because my character is athletic, I can get away. I can use distance. I can use my athleticism to compensate for my lack of blade skills. So here we go. He attacks my head, and I go, oh no, I don't wanna. And so I throw in this last attack. I knock this down. Again, I'm interrupting this action. He's about to hit me, but I throw this. He respects my threat. We don't double, and I take the advantage back. We're kind of using this person's inexperience to push the fight along. This person has to use self-preservation. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I take this back. Ah! Now we can throw in our cool rolls and stuff, right? So this character is athletic. They see an opportunity, they roll out of the way. Is it realistic? Probably not, but it's Star Wars, so who cares? And it fits in the scene, it makes sense. So here we go from the top of this fight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so we've established that this person doesn't really know what they're doing. They're hanging on by the skin of their teeth. Let's keep going. So we're here. So now I've rolled away one hand. We're gonna get even sloppier. There's a lot of sloppy moves in that fight that people try and defend. Here's how you really do sloppy moves. He thrusts in, I'm here. He dodges that, he dodges this, I'm there. Each one of these attacks, you can see that I'm off balance. It's very apparent. It's not just that actor doesn't know how to use the weapon and has bad footing. It is, this person is clearly in danger. So from here, I roll, I see this coming in, I don't have time, I push this out of the way, I show this, they dodge very deftly, I'm in a bad spot, I push this back, I use the force and I push myself with it. We have established that this person is barely hanging on with the skin of their teeth. We have an interesting fight that demonstrates that this person is inexperienced and this person is an experienced fighter. So here's our fight, inexperienced versus experienced. So. And now we've created a fight scene that's interesting, fun to watch, and clearly demonstrates that this person has no idea what they're doing and they're hanging out with the skin of their teeth. So that's how I think that fight scenes should be choreographed when there's a difference in experience level or other factors like that. Not just haphazard choreography, but specifically choreographing that inexperience into the fight itself and using the unique attributes of that character to make up for those differences. There's another problem that we haven't talked about. It's kind of the elephant in the room, and it might give me some pushback here, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. One of the problems with this fight and a lot of other fights in Hollywood are the actors did their own stunts. Actors train in acting. That's why they embody the character, they become them, and they can do a scene as another person. But generally, they don't train in stunts or martial arts or any of the other disciplines needed to do stunt performance. There are a few out there who do. Keanu Reeves, Jackie Chan, Tom Cruise all come to mind, but they're few and far between. Most people do not put enough time into learning these things to be proficient at it. So when an actor does their own stunts in their own fight scene, inherently you're getting a worse product than if they used a stunt double who trained this diligently and could give you a better product altogether. And this kind of brings down the quality of the film, in my opinion. If I'm watching Star Wars or The Witcher or Game of Thrones or anything else where someone's portraying an athletic or skilled swordsman or martial artist, I want someone in that role who can actually perform those motions, because it really takes me right out of the scene if I'm watching an action film and the action is subpar. There's more problems with this. If an actor is doing their own stunts and they get injured, it grinds the production to a halt, wasting money, time, and it could really hurt that actor. The actor's not trained as a stunt person, they're more likely to get injured. A stunt person is not as likely to get injured because it's what they do. Another thing to consider is the production timeline. The Force Awakens had 6 months of principal photography, which means they had to shoot everything they shot within that window. The actors were very busy. They probably had very little time to put towards that fight. But if you had stunt performers doing it, it wouldn't matter. They could take as much time as they needed to rep that fight and get it looking great, and then shoot it, and the actors could do their own thing. We have awesome technology now. Look at the fan film that came out recently, reimagining the fight between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. They CG'd Alec Guinness's face to the actor. It was fantastic. They then later used that same technology in the fight scene with Luke Skywalker in the hallway. We can do it. We have awesome technology. You can have perfect stunt doubles. There's no reason not to do it. And lastly, it delegitimizes stunt performance as a profession. If any old actor can do their own stunts, then what's the point? If productions would insist on using stunt doubles instead of letting the actors do their own stunts, it would legitimize stunt performance as its own art. Right now, there is no Oscar for stunt performance or for fight choreography, and this is a shame because so many movies are absolutely sold on their action scenes. I know it sounds like we might have gotten off track from our original point, but I'm gonna bring it all back together because this comes back to my first point. There is no reason to try and justify bad fight choreography in a film. It's not because the characters are untrained, it's not because the lore, it's because they didn't dedicate enough time and resources to making that fight, and it means you get a worse product.